What is up, everybody? Keith, aka Gator Guy 231, here to break down Tuesday, November 3rd's six-game Champions League slate. First off, before we get into the games, I want to thank everybody that is a consistent watcher, not only for watching but subscribing. We just hit over 1,000 subscribers yesterday, so the whole team is super excited. Let's just keep it going. If you haven't subscribed, bottom right of the screen, you will see the subscribe button. Please hit it. It is the best way to repay us for the free content and to keep supporting us to keep doing so. Let's just jump into the slate. And I kind of want to talk about, before going into like specific plays, just the slate as a whole. I think the biggest thing that you're going to decide today is like how much of the two biggest favorites you want to play. So Manchester City is minus 506 at home, 3.5 total. But if you've been following the EPL and you've been following the Champions League, you know, we kind of know that City's been a little bit of a rut really since the whole season, but specifically without, you know, a true striker. So with both Gabby Jesus and Sergio Aguero out, it's been a struggle. But, you know, most people are going to start their lineups with KDB for very good reason. Not only is he on all sets, but because the PK upside. But, you know, after that, do you go to the roulette wheel? Do you play more City or do you go somewhere else? I think my preference is to go to the second biggest favorite on the slate, which is Bayern minus 267 at Salzburg. 4 total, trending upward. Bayern is the best offensive team in all of, I don't want to say all of Europe, all of the world, and probably the best overall team still in all the world. They're going to be kind of pricey. You know, the top piece that you want to play on Bayern is Lewandowski. And then, you know, Joshua Kimmich, who's, you know, become one of the better DFS floor players that we get. And if you play him, Kevin De Bruyne, and Lewandowski, you know, you're going to be fighting for value. This is going to come out bad, but, you know, the good news is the shakeup in Ajax with, you know, their mini COVID outbreak definitely is going to provide that value. So we're just going to be breaking down all these. That's kind of just a slate overview. I think right now that my gut is to play with Lewandowski, Kimmich, and Kevin De Bruyne, and then figure it out from there. But I think there's going to be some good pivots that we can go on under that. So without further ado, let's jump right in. And I do want to start with Midtjylland and Ajax. So Ajax minus 110 favorite. These odds were pulled last night. I need to re-update them or re-pull this morning. But I bet you're going to continue to see more and more money shift towards Midtjylland with Ajax rotating. So let's take a look at SofaScore predictions. Just quick shout out to SofaScore. For me, one of the best resources out there for soccer. Not only is it great to follow along, but they have all the stats that you need to play DK successfully. So for all the hatred SofaScore gets, I still very much prefer it. So let's start with the Ajax side over here on the right. If this formation kind of sticks, first off, I think Santos and Traore would switch spots. But Daily Blend is at 3,800 and I think would step into a majority of set pieces. He played center back over the weekend, took a few corners. Quincy Promes could also take some corners. David Neres has the ability. He's taken from Brazil as well. And here's the thing. All these guys are cheap. So I think that Daily Blend would be my favorite piece. We know from his Manchester United days, he is very, very apt to take corners. He's taken corners for Netherlands and Ajax. So he would be my guess on the corners. But I think, you know, selling short Promes or David Neres would be mistaken. The Santos has just been awesome for them. You know, you look at his last game versus Atalanta, tons of shots. So I think he is solid. But we just want to watch this lineup. You know, there's going to be more testing this morning, so we could even see more shaking up. But, you know, Daily Blend, you know, is the value that provides us very much open ability to get those top 3 I started with. On the Midtjylland side, despite, you know, facing a weekend side, I still don't necessarily know that I want to, like, go all in or anything on Midtjylland. Maybe they're a good GPP team. I believe Sari Kaba is out, if I remember reading a preview this morning. But anyhow, I've always made the joke in our Discord, but like rostering a striker named Sorry, probably not the best option, unless you just like the trolling, unless you want to go, oh, I missed the chance, sorry, that type of thing. But the best plays from Midtjylland, Anders Dreyer takes the majority of their set pieces. Sisto took some over the weekend, but I noticed almost all of them ended up being short corners. So I don't necessarily know that I just want to run to Sisto. Mayville last year or last season, hell, it's like 3 months ago at this 2020's rate. But when we had EverDC DFS, Mayville was actually a really good player. Did a ton of crossing. I've noticed this season not nearly as much. We also want to look for Evander, was one of the best DFS players in the EverDC last season, but he just hasn't been the same this year. Dreyer's been playing a lot more, taking away his set share. I do think that Michael Anderson, the goalie, may end up being one of the more popular choices today. He's priced like the way he was before the COVID outbreak. So despite the odds getting more and more narrow, he's still, I think, the third cheapest keeper on the slate. So at home versus a team with a lot of rotation, I think that'll be popular. I do just want to point out like a GPP like dart. Shevchenko, he scored like 8-9 goals last season in EverDC. I didn't pull it before doing this. I wasn't going to mention him, and then I just saw his name and like, I want to throw this out there. So especially on like somewhere like FanDuel, where center backs are a lot more in play because of clearances, I think Shevchenko is a guy that does give you a little bit of upside on top of it. All right, I think I'll word that game out. Let's jump into the next one, which for me is going to be Bayern versus Salzburg. I'm Bayern minus 267, 4 total. So let's just look at what we're going to be seeing today. So Kimmich and Lewandowski, to me, are by far the two best players on Bayern. Kimmich takes 100% of set pieces, and despite a deep-lying role, still, we saw that pass the last game. He's just out of this world midfielder. Does even give some goal upside. So, he has free reign to go everywhere. And while he does have more defensive responsibilities for Bayern, it's not going to hurt, his DFS goodness for us, especially at 8,200. I think it's just very, very fair. Now, you could go for an upside pivot to Serge Gnabry, which if he was a forward-eligible player, I think construction would be a lot different. But his price is very, very solid. We know Serge has massive upside. I believe it was 4 goals versus Spurs last year. Just consistently scores. So, if you're stacking up Bayern and maybe feeding KDB, maybe you're doing something like Kimmich, Lewandowski, Gnabry, and then you still, because of all the value, have the ability to play like Muller or Coman at forward. So I like that a lot. Coman, Miller, both great plays. I think they're cash viable. Just all depends on your build. What I will say on this slate is I think paying up at the defender slot will immediately make you contrarian. Pavard and Hernandez, neither one of them are like my type of fullbacks. Neither one are like huge crossers or anything like that. But they both have decent upside. I don't really think the clean sheet is in play. I think Bayern's going to concede at least one. But, with a 4 total, both of them, one of them getting an assist or goal upside is definitely there. So for Salzburg, I kind of talked about Lewandowski enough. He should have won the Ballon d'Or last year if they would have had it. I think he led the world in goals. Started out this Champions League a little bit cold, so I definitely think he gets off the snide here. I think there's a better chance that he scores 2 goals than scores none. For the Salzburg side, if they would have priced things a little bit more fun, I would have loved Sassublai. I think he's like 7,000 or 7,500, but it's just a little bit too hard to get to him, especially as a dog versus such a great team. But if you want to lower own goal, I mean, he's fantastic. The only thing that stinks is that Junazovicin is going to cut into a set share. But again, I think if you want a low own goal, Sassublai is nice. And then Koita, actually Daku is out, which actually really hurts him. But, Koita is a decent striker, so that'll be low owned. All right, enough of that game. Let's go back here, and we're going to jump over to Inter versus Real Madrid. So here's the big thing in this game, and I'll do this as I pull it up. But the big thing in this game is that Lukaku out for Inter, I think, is a big, big deal. Despite just goal scoring, a lot of what Lukaku does is helps, spur Inter's attack. He plays a lot to his back to goal, so where he'll get hold up play here in midfield, and then that'll start the attack. Perisic still 100% cannot do that role. Lautaro, while he's a great striker, that's not like the physical aspect is not what he's good at. So I do think that Inter could struggle. Let's just talk about like the DFS plays. I think that Perisic, if playing as a second striker partner in Lautaro, is GPP only. If this formation sticks, you're probably going to see Young and Brozovic taking corners. Brozovic is 3,800. I always like Brozovic. I think he's a really, really, really top-class player. So 3,800 I'm very okay with. Hakimi, just was sold by Madrid this past season. So, if you want some revenge narrative, that's fine. But good player. I did not look at his price because I just had never landed there. So I don't even know what he's priced at. That's enough Inter. Let's go to Real Madrid. I think the most popular player on Real Madrid today is going to be Eden Hazard. If playing 5,700, forward eligible. I think it makes a ton of sense versus an Inter team that has looked a little bit open and susceptible to, goals. I do wonder with Lukaku out, does Conte, really kind of barrel down a little bit more than he's been so far this season? But Eden Hazard, 5,700, again, great play. I think the other play that people may be interested in is Toni Kroos. He takes a majority, if not all, the set pieces. I saw Asensio took some last week, but Kroos 6,900, which is a fair price for him. Again, for the point per dollar, I still prefer Kimmich at 8,200. But I do think, a lot of people that are doing like Lewandowski, Kevin De Bruyne, they may end up going Kroos over Kimmich, which is fine. I just want extra Bayern personally. So, yeah. And then, GPP, Sergio Ramos, always there, 4,900. He's going to be more owned than he should be. But if, Real Madrid gets a lot of penalty kicks, and, he's one of the best PK takers in the world. So hard to argue with him. All right, let's move to the big slate with the favorite, which I should have done next, but Manchester City minus 506 hosting Olympiakos. Look, I think Kevin De Bruyne is just kind of that auto lock in any sort of cash or optimal type of builds. He's up there with Lewandowski of the highest ceilings on the slate and also has the highest floor. Really, to me, from here, it's just what else do you do with City? Give me just 2 seconds. So are you satisfied with just Kevin De Bruyne? Or do you kind of want to go with like your second forward? Do you decide that Lewandowski's price is a little too high, that, I'm going to get my second Bayern piece with Kimmich and then Gnabry or Coman or Miller, which I think is very fair. And so do I go now, instead of spending down to like Hazard or down to Neres or down to Promes or down to what other second forward that you love, I'm going to go up to Mahrez or Sterling? I think that's super, super fair. In one of the constructions I've toyed with, and it definitely works. So Mahrez takes a few set pieces. We know he's a very willing shooter. I think Olympiakos is half decent defensively, but, we saw Porto kind of have their way with them last week. So if Porto had their way with them, we've got to think that this might be a get-right spot for City. I would say I prefer Sterling to Mahrez, just straight up. While Mahrez has, better floor because of corners and things, I think, when you see this lineup, I always think there's equity on when you get a goal notification. Who do you expect it to be? So when I look at this lineup, if I see a goal notification, my expectation is it's Sterling or De Bruyne. And then I probably think maybe Torres and then Mahrez. So I think there's some equity on, in your mind. If you think City is going to score, which the odds say they definitely should, and you expect a goal notification, play the guy that you're worried would score, not the guy that you're like, all right, he has better floor or he has a few corners. His floor is 3 points better than Sterling, but his upside's less. And if a goal notification happens, I'm pretty sure it's Sterling. Well, then just play Sterling. So there's my piece. Cancelo is the only other guy I really want to mention. I think he's been phenomenal as left back. I would love to see him at right back. Pep, make it happen. Teach Kyle Walker, if he's not going to cross the ball anyways, to play left back and let Cancelo get on the right. But all jokes aside, I think he's like 4 or 5 straight games, double digits. So if you want to spend up at fullback, I think he's one of the better spend ups on the slate. For the Olympiakos side, City drains possession and dominates possession. So it drains a lot of the floor plays out. So despite Valbuena's floor being unbelievable, this is not the slate for him. If you do play Olympiakos piece, I would play a cheap attacker. I have no idea what El Arabi's price is, but there's your option. All right, let's go to Marseille versus Porto. I have very little to say about this other than this could be a place for value. So first guy I want to mention is actually Manafa. Fullback for Porto is stone minimum, 2,500. I think he is going to be fairly popular. And again, I told you there would be value to play, a studs and duds lineup. There you go. So Manafa would be one of those plays. Oliveira took a majority of set pieces for them all season. He's 5,300, 5,100, so I think it's a weird price. But, if you want a low-owned guy and you think this game, despite its low total, so despite its 2.25 total when everything else is over 3, you think that this is like an ownership game, go for it. To be just real with you, probably the only play I'm interested in is in Manafa. For the Marseille side, Thauvin takes majority of sets over Payet these days. I think 2 games ago it was set to be a split. Regardless, I think they're both okay. But again, 2.25 total, this is not the game I want to go to. All right, let's skip ahead. I think actually we're on our last game, which is at Atalanta and Liverpool. Now, if you do want a low-owned GPP game with a high total that might not have a ton of ownership, this is probably it. I can just tell you I have, no interest in this game other than Johan Mojica, if in. I saw Gosling is out. Mojica started as left wing back on the weekend. He also is 2,500. So you have a very good chance of playing 2 fullbacks and spending a total of 2,500. Or if you see the salary, you could play one of them. I think Mojica is probably better. But Mojica plus daily blend and, that's 6,300. So you can get really cheap at defender. Probably explains why, I wasn't super high on a lot of other fullbacks like Pavard, like Hernandez, like Cancelo, because I really think this is the pay down. If you want, I'll just say this. Atalanta is never bashful to go forward. Depending on what lineup Liverpool tosses out, they need to rotate. I've been saying since the weekend, I was shocked that TAA and Andrew Robertson still both played 90 minutes this past weekend, but they desperately need a breather. So, maybe this is a game that Klopp does more rotation, especially already winning the first 2 games of the Champions League. If he could squeeze out a draw here, I think he would be thrilled. Liverpool fans, we definitely would be thrilled if we got a draw here. But I don't want any bit of Liverpool. I think it's a tough matchup. They haven't been that DFS friendly all this season, especially if you see Minamino starting up top. That's definitely a big drop off from Firmino. I just think Liverpool's a pass. But Papu Gomez, if Ilicic weren't to play, would be on a majority of all set pieces. Pairing him with Zapata, that would be a super low-owned contrarian GPP stack. So it definitely works. All right, that does it for the games. I do just want to throw out some FanDuel for you guys. Look, I think you just stack Bayern on FanDuel. Now that it's positionless, you can go Lewandowski. You can go Kevin De Bruyne. So there's your 2 spend-ups. Then do a Kimmich plus 1 more Bayern piece. I would just on FanDuel, all 4 attackers I would make from Bayern or City. So, mix in some Sterling, mix in maybe Mahrez or Torres or those type of guys. But you don't have to spend Like, you don't have to fill spots like we do on DraftKings. Like, it's a big reason that I think DraftKings is a better cash site than FanDuel, because there are more decisions to make. FanDuel goes, okay, who are the 4 guys I think have the highest upside in the slate, and how can I fit them all? So Lewandowski, De Bruyne, and then a Bayern attacking piece, or Kimmich, is how you start FanDuel. Look for those $5 to $7 center backs, and then look at the goalies. Normally FanDuel consistently is messing up a goalie price. I have not looked this morning, but I'm sure there's going to be a miss when I look. So just make it work, and hope that the goals go in your favor. Want to thank everybody once again for all the support for not only the soccer, but the college football we're doing, all the things that we're doing at FSI. Thank you all so much. Once again, Keith, a.k.a. Gator Guy 231, have a great day. See ya.